Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up a really consequential topic, men's health, specifically navigating those years we're calling 50 and forward.
hmm
We've got a substantial stack of sources here, and they frame this pivotal age not as, some inevitable decline, but actually as the perfect moment for a necessary reset, a major investment in your future well-being.
Yeah, it's a crucial distinction. And the core framework these sources use, it's actually really effective. They suggest that managing your health at midlife, it should be approached pretty much like financial retirement planning.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right, you hit 50, you don't just ignore your portfolio. You look at the balances, you assess the market risks, and you adjust things for the next, 2 or 3 decades. Health is exactly the same.
Ah.
You really have to take a close look at where your body stands right now, reduce those accumulating risks, and critically invest in the daily habits that are going to pay off, pay those health dividends down the line.
That analogy really makes the whole idea of getting healthy, which can feel a bit abstract. It makes it feel concrete, urgent even. It shifts the mindset from just, passive aging to active investment.
Precisely.
So our mission today is to distill this huge body of research and give you a clear, encouraging answer to the question, what specifically can I control? And the sources, they're overwhelmingly positive on this. They emphasize that the lifestyle factors you can control. They often affect your health much, much more profoundly than the genetic factors you can't.
That's the key takeaway.
We're uncovering the detailed, consistent daily habits that build that health momentum, replacing the feeling of being overwhelmed with practical, actionable steps.
Okay, so let's unpack the reality of hitting this milestone. Why is age 50 always highlighted in the medical literature? Why is it seen as this significant line in the sand for health screening and concern?
Well, it's basically the point where cumulative damage starts to show up clinically. The sources state it pretty clearly. Starting around age 50, a man's body just becomes significantly more susceptible to ailments and disorders. Right.
And these things can genuinely derail not just how long you live, but critically, your daily happiness and your quality of life. It's sort of when minor annoyances can start turning into persistent chronic issues.
And what are those specific quality of life issues we need to be aware of? Because often it's these smaller problems that are signaling bigger systemic shifts, right?
Exactly. We're talking about the really common age-related things, like chronic low back pain, which obviously limits your activity, osteoarthritis, which causes joint breakdown or reduces mobility. Hearing loss is another big one. Then there are challenges more specific to men, like an enlarged prostate, that's BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia, which messes with sleep and urinary function, and of course, erectile dysfunction, or ED.
Yeah.
These things, taken together, they chip away at that feeling of, being bulletproof, and they prompt a lot of men to finally seek out a health reset.
I want to zoom in on ED for just a second because it often feels like this isolated problem, but it's frequently cited as a really critical early warning sign for bigger cardiovascular issues, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a huge flag. The smaller arteries, like the ones leading to the sexual organs, they're often among the very first to show damage from poor vascular health.
Oh.
We're talking potentially years before the larger arteries, like in the heart, show significant blockages.
Wow, years.
Potentially. So ED shouldn't just be seen as, a quality of life issue. It is a vascular red flag. And addressing the lifestyle factors that cause it, things like smoking, high cholesterol, insulin resistance, that's often a direct path to preventing future heart attacks or strokes.
Okay, that really reframes it. So that brings us to the baseline. Let's start with the things we just can't change so we understand the inherent risks involved.
Right. Well, what you can't control is age itself. It's just a journey of gradual physical changes that are, frankly, normal. On a microscopic level, as your cells replicate over decades, random genetic mistakes happen. Cellular damage accumulates. And our body's really sophisticated built-in repair systems, the ones that work flawlessly in our 20s, they start to, break down or slow down in midlife. And that allows that damage to pile up more rapidly.
And then there's the family history piece.
Family history is definitely non-negotiable. If an immediate family member, a parent or a sibling, develops something serious, like early onset heart disease or diabetes or certain cancers, you have an elevated risk.
And it's complicated.
It is. It's a complex risk. Because while shared genes explain some of it, the sources are really keen to emphasize that shared lifestyles often play an equally, maybe even more influential role.
Okay.
Think about it. If you grew up eating the same highly processed foods and had the same sedentary habits as your parents, that environment just reinforces any genetic predisposition you might have.
Right. That makes sense. This is where we pivot then to the really encouraging news. The power of lifestyle. If we accept that idea that genes load the gun, how do we, biologically speaking, avoid pulling the trigger?
That's really the core concept we need to internalize.
Yeah.
Genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. The field of epigenetics, without getting too bogged down in the science, it basically shows us that genes aren't destiny. They're more like switches.
What's gracious?
Yeah. Healthy habits, your diet, exercise, sleep, they can essentially keep those disease-promoting genes switched off, permanently in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, chronic poor lifestyle choices can flip the switch on, activating even relatively quiet genetic risks.
So, despite all the complex genetic research we hear about, the practical takeaway is, surprisingly, quite simple.
It really is. Despite all the media focus on new genetic discoveries, that fundamental tried-and-true advice about consistent diet and exercise, it often matters more in determining your long-term health outcomes.
Mhm.
You can actively override many potential issues just by adopting healthy, consistent habits. And you can amplify the benefits of any good genes you might have with positive choices. So the mission, it remains intensely practical. Focus on the daily actions that are entirely within your power right now. Okay, let's start our investment discussion with movement. This offers just enormous returns. Why is it so foundational in midlife? Well, beyond just weight management, movement is linked to profoundly improved mood, much better management of blood sugar, a significant drop in heart disease risk, and, increased longevity.
Okay.
And when you're restarting or maybe intensifying your fitness routine after 50, the key takeaway really is that consistency. Consistency matters far more than extreme intensity.
I really appreciate that emphasis on consistency because the idea of, starting some marathon training program when you haven't run in 20 years is just, it's daunting, it's discouraging.
Holy.
So for the listener looking for a practical entry point, what's the cardio target we should actually be aiming for?
The scientifically recommended target is to accumulate at least 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week. And this doesn't have to be one long, grueling session.
Right.
The sources really emphasize making it simple. A brisk 30-minute walk, say 5 days a week. That hits the target.
Okay.
Swimming, cycling, even dancing are fantastic, low-impact alternatives. The only real instruction is to make sure you're moving fast enough that you can talk, but you probably couldn't sing. That's kind of the sweet spot for getting your heart pumping and achieving those vascular benefits.
That definitely seems achievable if you break it down into those 30-minute chunks. But what if someone has joint pain, or maybe they struggle to find a continuous 30 minutes in a busy day?
That's a critical point, especially for the older beginner. You can absolutely break it into, say, 3 10-minute bursts throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
The cumulative total is what matters most. If joint pain is a barrier, then focus on non-weight-bearing activities, things like swimming, water aerobics, or using an elliptical machine. These give you the cardio benefits without hammering your knees and hips. Good point. The goal really is to make the activity something you hopefully look forward to, not something you dread, because compliance, sticking with it, that's the biggest investment challenge for most people.
Let's pivot to strength now. I know men naturally lose lean muscle mass and bone density. That process, sarcopenia, it starts well before 50, but it really accelerates in midlife. How does this affect metabolism and, maybe more importantly, hormonal health?
Oh, sarcopenia is a huge factor. The loss of muscle means your metabolic rate slows right down. That makes weight gain almost inevitable, even if you're eating the same amount as you used to.
Right. The dreaded slowdown.
Exactly. And worse, the typical weight gain that results often concentrates right around the belly, that visceral fat. And as a visceral fat, it's metabolically active. It actually produces inflammatory chemicals, which leads directly to insulin resistance. And when you're insulin resistant, your body is less efficient at using sugar. And this whole dysregulation, it's directly linked to lower testosterone levels because the body struggles with hormonal conversion and regulation when inflammation is high.
So the fix isn't just about looking better. It's fundamental hormonal and metabolic repair we're talking about. Strength training is essential. How often should we be, lifting weights or doing resistance work to rebuild muscle and strengthen those bones?
Yes. Strength training is absolutely non-negotiable for men over 50. You should aim for 2 to 3 short strength sessions per week. Focus on the major muscle groups. This consistency signals to your body that, hey, muscle mass is needed, and it helps slow down those catabolic or breakdown processes.
But the reality is a lot of men don't want to join a gym. Or they feel intimidated by all the complex weight machines. What's the most relatable action they can start, like, today? Minimizing risk but getting maximum benefit.
You absolutely do not need a gym membership to start. Begin with bodyweight exercises. These use compound movements, which are incredibly effective for triggering that hormonal response we talked about.
Like what specifically?
Think about exercises that use multiple joints at the same time, like squats, push-ups, and planks. Even simple things like doing wall push-ups or standing squats using a chair for support. Those are perfect entry points.
Okay.
Once you can comfortably manage, say, 10 to 12 repetitions of an exercise, then you can think about progressively overloading the muscle. That's maybe when you introduce some adjustable weight dumbbells.
Yeah.
But always focus on controlled, slow movements to prevent injury. Consistency first.
That's the key, controlling the movement. What about flexibility? We often skip stretching, myself included, which just seems like setting yourself up for injury down the road.
It really is. Flexibility is so essential for injury prevention, especially as our connective tissues naturally stiffen with age. Aging plus chronic stress tends to tighten muscles, particularly the hamstrings, the hip flexors from sitting all day, and definitely the lower back.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Right. This tightness compromises your posture, your mobility, and leads directly to strain injuries. And the simple habit to build is incorporating stretching after you've been sedentary for a while or after your walk when your muscles are warm.
What kind of stretches?
Simple movements like seated hamstring stretches, cat-cow yoga poses for the spine, or gentle bridges to activate the glutes and stretch the hip flexors. These help maintain joint range of motion. Think of flexibility training as like maintaining the mobility of your health asset so it doesn't break down under pressure.
Okay, movement is one massive pillar, but diet. Diet is arguably the largest area of personal control we have. The sources synthesize this very clearly. Consuming a healthy diet is one of the single best ways to reduce the risk of multiple life-threatening illnesses, specifically heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and many common cancers.
Exactly. And this isn't about jumping on the latest dieting fad. It's about foundational, consistent swaps. Let's start with one that seems simple but is profoundly important: hydration.
Yeah, our sources noted something fascinating here, that our thirst signals often become less noticeable as we age. So you can end up in a state of chronic mild dehydration without even realizing it.
Precisely. Mild chronic dehydration can lead to fatigue, it can affect your cognitive function, and it can even increase blood viscosity, which makes the heart work harder.
Wow.
So you need to be proactive. Maybe even schedule your water intake. Drink a full glass of water with every meal. Keep a water bottle visible on your desk, in your car.
Yeah.
And the single most crucial swap you can make here: eliminate soda and other sugar-sweetened beverages. Just cut them out.
Why is that sugary drink swap so vital? What's the mechanism?
Because liquid sugar is basically a metabolic disaster. These drinks just flood your system, leading to these rapid insulin spikes that completely mess with your metabolism.
Right.
Chronic consumption significantly raises the risk of insulin resistance, heart disease. And there's even evidence linking it to increased risk factors for prostate problems. Switching to water, unsweetened tea, maybe sparkling water, that's probably the highest leverage dietary change you can make, like instantly.
Okay, noted. Next up is sodium reduction. Huge factor for blood pressure and vascular health.
Absolutely. Too much sodium raises blood pressure. That forces the heart to work harder and damages your arterial walls over time. For men over 50, controlling blood pressure is just paramount for preventing strokes.
And most of it isn't from the salt shaker.
Nope. The vast majority of sodium we consume doesn't come from the salt shaker on the table. It hides in processed foods, packaged snacks, restaurant meals, fast food.
So what's the practical advice?
Read the labels. Look for the low sodium designation on packaging. That means it has to contain less than 140 milligrams per serving. Just being aware and checking labels makes a huge difference.
Is there anything we can eat to maybe help counteract high sodium intake if we, slip up or eat out?
Yes, definitely. Increasing your potassium intake helps maintain that delicate sodium-potassium balance, which is crucial for cellular function and blood pressure regulation. Potassium essentially helps your kidneys excrete excess sodium.
Ah, okay. Good sources.
Excellent sources include bananas, leafy greens like spinach and kale, sweet potatoes, beans. A focused effort to replace those salty processed snacks with potassium-rich whole foods. That's a highly effective investment right there.
Speaking of whole foods, the goal of eating more fruits and vegetables is universal, but the actual target number can sound a bit overwhelming. How many servings are we really aiming for, and what does that realistically look like on a plate?
Yeah, the target is a minimum of 5 to 7 servings of a variety of fruits and vegetables daily.
5 to 7.
It sounds like a lot, but this high intake is crucial, not just for lowering overall disease risk, but also for providing the massive amount of fiber needed for good gut health and preventing constipation, which commonly increases with age.
Okay, how do we make 5 to 7 achievable?
Think about making every meal colorful. And a single serving is often smaller than you might think. Like a medium apple is one. A half cup of cooked vegetables is one. One full cup of raw salad greens counts as one.
Right.
Aim to fill half your plate with vegetables at lunch and dinner. If you maybe blend a smoothie with spinach and some berries in the morning, you've already knocked out 2 or 3 servings before noon. It's about building that volume consistently throughout the day.
That does make the goal seem much more approachable. Okay, let's talk about fats. We often hear that the heart and the brain are linked in terms of dietary needs. Good for the heart, good for the brain.
That's an excellent guiding principle. What's good for your heart is good for your brain. We really need to maximize our intake of healthy, unsaturated fats. That means monounsaturated fats. You find those in extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts, and also polyunsaturated omega-3 fats found in fatty fish like salmon.
And why are these fats so good?
These healthy fats help reduce the harmful LDL cholesterol, and they help maintain the structural integrity and flexibility of your cell membranes, including those in your brain and your blood vessels. They're crucial building blocks.
Conversely, what specific fats are the biggest culprits for men's health after 50? What should we actively avoid or limit?
You definitely need to limit saturated fats. Those are found primarily in fatty red meats, butter, full-fat dairy. But perhaps even more critical to avoid are industrial trans fats.
Fats? Right.
High trans fat consumption creates inflammation. It damages the lining of your blood vessels, that's the endothelium, and it hinders the body's ability to produce necessary hormones properly. The sources specifically note that excessive intake of these unhealthy fats can disrupt cholesterol metabolism and potentially lower testosterone levels.
Oh, there's that link again.
Yep, directly contributing to both cardiovascular disease and ED. So simple swaps, like choosing leaner cuts of meat or opting for a handful of nuts instead of fried snacks, those are vital.
Finally, we need to address bone health. Men lose bone density too, maybe not as dramatically as women post-menopause, but it's still critical for mobility and preventing those debilitating fractures later in life.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Bone density loss is a silent threat for men too. The target minimum daily intake is 1,000 milligrams of calcium for adults age 50 to 70.
Okay.
That actually increases to 1,200 milligrams for men 71 and older. You need to ensure you're getting calcium from food sources first. Things like low-fat dairy, fortified plant milks, salmon with the bones in, dark leafy greens like kale and broccoli.
And vitamin D is the essential partner here, isn't it? Calcium doesn't work well without it.
It's the facilitator, exactly. Vitamin D is absolutely necessary for your gut to absorb that calcium effectively. Adults up to age 70 should aim for 600 IU international units of vitamin D daily, increasing to 800 IU after age 70.
Why does the need increase?
Well, it's twofold, really. As we age, our skin becomes less efficient at synthesizing vitamin D from sunlight exposure, and our gut absorption can also slow down a bit. Given that many people are actually vitamin D deficient, supplementation is often necessary. But always discuss the appropriate dose with your healthcare provider first. Don't just guess. Okay, so we've covered the physical aspects of diet and movement quite a bit, but we really have to emphasize that things like sleep and stress management, these aren't secondary issues. They are absolutely foundational pillars.
Right.
They profoundly influence every other system in your body, directly impacting heart health, brain function, hormonal regulation, your immune defenses, everything.
Let's look at sleep first then. In midlife, men often report having trouble sleeping or maybe thinking they need less sleep than they used to, which sounds like a huge mistake based on what you're saying. How much quality sleep are we truly aiming for?
The target is pretty much non-negotiable. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. The why behind that is deeply physiological. Good sleep is literally when your body focuses on healing and repair.
How so?
Well, for your cardiovascular system, your heart rate and blood pressure naturally drop during deep sleep phases. This provides a vital restorative break for your heart and blood vessels. As arteries naturally stiffen a bit with age, this nightly recovery period becomes even more crucial for maintaining vascular health.
And not getting enough sleep does the opposite.
Exactly. Chronic sleep deprivation keeps stress hormones like cortisol elevated, it raises blood pressure, and it basically accelerates arterial damage. It's undermining all the other good work you might be doing.
And chronic high stress, that seems to be the constant enemy of both good sleep and good heart health.
It really is the silent killer. Stress takes such a significant toll because it activates what's called the HPA axis, releasing persistent high levels of cortisol and adrenaline.
Right, the fight or flight hormones.
Precisely. And chronically elevated cortisol contributes to weight gain, especially that dangerous belly fat we talked about. It promotes insulin resistance, and it directly damages the heart and blood vessels over time. Furthermore, high stress levels have been definitively linked to impaired memory consolidation and an increased risk of cognitive decline later on.
So if exercise and diet are sort of the structural investments, then stress management is like the insurance policy protecting those investments. What are the most actionable steps suggested in the sources to actively lower stress levels?
The sources really point towards dedicated, regular practice. This includes incorporating things like meditation or mindfulness exercises.
Yeah.
Engaging in that regular physical activity we discussed, exercise, is a fantastic cortisol suppressant.
Oh, okay.
Or, if the stress feels overwhelming, seeking talk therapy or counseling can be incredibly beneficial. It's also crucial to identify and then eliminate or at least reduce common stressors where you can, and maybe find healthier coping mechanisms than, say, excessive alcohol use or emotional eating. Viewing stress reduction as a vital, non-negotiable daily task, kind of like brushing your teeth, that's key. It needs to be prioritized.
Mental wellness, particularly social connection, often gets overlooked entirely in men's health discussions, yet it seems like a huge factor in midlife resilience.
It is absolutely foundational to resilience. Depression is identified as a really significant midlife challenge for men, and social isolation just compounds both stress and depression risk. Humans are fundamentally wired for connection.
So connection actually impacts physical health.
It does. Staying connected helps regulate stress hormones, and it actually boosts immune function. The actionable advice here is pretty straightforward. Be social in ways that feel meaningful to you. That could be volunteering at a local nonprofit, regularly scheduling get-togethers with friends and family, or attending social or learning events. Building and maintaining a strong social support network is genuinely a protective health factor.
I want to circle back briefly to alcohol use because many men use it, as a social lubricant or perhaps as a stress reliever at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the sources issue a pretty strong caution here. While moderation might be acceptable for some, excessive alcohol consumption can definitely lead to confusion, memory loss, and liver damage over time.
And it hits harder as we age.
Importantly, yes. As we age, our bodies tend to metabolize alcohol less efficiently. That means its effects can feel stronger and last longer than they used to, which increases the risk of accidents, injury, and just general health decline. The recommendation is almost always moderation, which for men generally means no more than 2 standard drinks per day and ideally less, or none.
Okay, we've covered a lot on the lifestyle adjustment front: diet, exercise, sleep, stress. But for someone listening who feels maybe a bit overwhelmed by all this, or perhaps hasn't seen a doctor in years, that practical first step can often feel like the hardest one to take. What is the single most important immediate action you'd recommend?
Without a doubt, the single most important first step is visiting a primary care provider annually. The sources are absolutely unanimous on this. You simply cannot invest wisely unless you know your starting balance, right?
Good point.
It is never too late to start changing bad habits, but you must establish that medical baseline. Too often, people avoid this visit, maybe fearing bad news. But that avoidance just allows underlying problems, like silently high blood pressure or creeping cholesterol levels, to compound completely undetected.
So what specifically should men expect or maybe proactively ask for during that annual physical? What are the essential numbers and screenings they really need to prioritize after 50?
The annual physical is crucial for tracking your key baseline metrics. That means trends in your weight, your cholesterol panel, specifically LDL, bad, HDL, good, and triglycerides, your blood pressure readings over time, and your blood sugar, usually checked with an HbA1c test, which gives an average over months.
Right.
These numbers allow your doctor to really tailor your care to your specific physiological needs and risks, especially considering any family history, things like heart disease or cancer.
And regarding those cancer screenings specifically?
Absolutely essential to discuss. Men need to talk with their doctor about the necessity and the appropriate timing of screenings. A colonoscopy is typically recommended starting around age 45 or 50, sometimes earlier if family history warrants it, because finding and removing polyps early dramatically reduces the risk of colon cancer later.
Okay.
Likewise, there should be a discussion about the pros and cons of prostate cancer screening, usually involving a PSA blood test and potentially a physical exam. The timing and frequency depend on individual risks and preferences, so it needs to be a conversation with your doctor. Proactive maintenance really is about catching small problems before they escalate into crises.
Beyond that professional checkup, let's talk about the daily self-care check-ins that protect health between those doctor visits. And we absolutely must start with what you called the single most powerful investment: quitting smoking.
Yes, kicking the habit of smoking is universally described, bar none, as the single most important thing you can possibly do to improve your health. It offers the highest immediate return on investment. The benefits are just massive and they start rapidly. Quitting improves your breathing and your endurance almost immediately. It significantly decreases your risk of lung cancer and heart disease over time. And because smoking constricts blood vessels all over the body, quitting may even reverse vascular issues like erectile dysfunction, sometimes within months.
Wow.
If you are serious about a health reset after 50, quitting smoking has to be the cornerstone. No question.
What about dental health? It often feels separate, but you mentioned it's linked to systemic inflammation.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Dental health is a core part of preventive care. Chronic gum disease, or periodontitis, is a known source of systemic inflammation throughout the body, and it's clearly linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease.
So the basics matter.
The basics matter hugely. Men need to brush twice a day and floss daily. As we age, gums can recede, making teeth more vulnerable. Plus, certain medications commonly prescribed in midlife like blood pressure meds or antidepressants can cause dry mouth. And dry mouth drastically increases the risk of tooth decay and infections. So that simple daily hygiene really acts as a systemic safeguard.
And finally, skin health. Vigilance there.
Definitely. Our skin naturally thins and becomes more fragile with age. This makes it easier to bruise and also increases our susceptibility to sun damage accumulated over decades. When you're outdoors, consistent use of a broad-spectrum sunscreen and wearing protective clothing, these should be non-negotiable habits.
And checking ourselves.
Yes. The crucial daily or maybe weekly check-in is self-monitoring. Make a habit of checking your skin regularly, your arms, legs, back, scalp, everywhere, and immediately report any changes to your doctor. That includes any new spots that are growing, moles that change color, shape, or start to bleed, or any sores that just don't seem to heal within a couple of weeks. Early detection of skin cancer is absolutely key. Hashtag outro. So just to synthesize the core message here for you, the listener, the entire framework we've discussed, it's really not about achieving perfect health overnight. That's an unrealistic, frankly stressful goal. It is all about building momentum.
Momentum.
By consistently focusing on these controllable lifestyle investments, improving your diet bit by bit, ensuring you get regular movement, prioritizing your sleep, managing that chronic stress, you are actively working to ensure that you stay active, energized, and truly ready for the next chapter, whatever that holds. You're consciously reducing the risks for major illnesses and protecting your overall vitality for the long haul.
And that proactive effort, it yields tremendous practical returns. Our sources are incredibly encouraging on this point. They state clearly, you can absolutely build muscle, you can boost your energy levels, you can drastically improve your vascular health and your mental function well after 50. It's not just about adding years to your life, it's truly about adding life to those years, maximizing the enjoyment and capability you have for your next couple of decades at least.
Which brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? Talking about the signal versus the system. We established that conditions like erectile dysfunction ED can often be eased or sometimes even reversed by simple lifestyle changes, quitting smoking, losing excess weight, and crucially, that ED is frequently an early warning signal for broader cardiovascular disease.
Right, the canary in the coal mine, so to speak.
Exactly. So consider this as a final provocative thought. What seemingly isolated physical sign might you be currently ignoring? What symptom might actually be the loudest warning signal your body is sending you right now, urging you to make a simple yet powerful lifestyle adjustment? Try to think of that symptom, not just as an annoyance, but maybe as an urgent margin call on your personal health account. Improving your overall vitality by investing in these basics, diet, movement, sleep, stress, it may simultaneously resolve issues you thought required complex medication, yielding a profound, maybe even surprising return on that daily investment you make in yourself.